basically build a ranger, D&D 6th level ranger, Elven female, and I'm going to make this 5th level, and she's going to be the Beastmaster Archetype. So the archetype that she has is one that seems to be kind of underpowered, but also might be problems with, certain way you build it and that sort of thing. But I think it's as strong or as weak as you make it. So whatever, whatever it takes to make this character better, we're gonna do it. I'm gonna do a little artwork, and we're gonna have, not really artwork, but I'm gonna mess around with some photos so that I can, make it look better. And I'm going to be adjusting things and, showing you guys how to make the tokens to go along with it if you want to do that. It shouldn't take too long. So I'm going to first build the artwork because I think that will inspire me. I got a little bit of nature sounds in the background. And I got my art programs loaded up. So let's see what we got here. So first and foremost, I want to bring up a photo of a female ranger. She's going to be a half elf. And I noticed that this one has a bobcat. I kind of like that. So I am going to basically take snapshots of this photo and kind of use this for my tokens for my character. No, I don't own this art legally, nor am I trying to distribute it. So I'm just going to borrow it and use it in my own personal materials. So if you decide to do your own art, you're better off. But if you want to borrow something, make sure you get permission if you're going to sell it. But this is just going to be for the tutorial, and I'm just going to clean this photo up and make use of it. So first of all, I am going to trim some of this background. I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut off some of the white back there. Don't need all that. And I'm just going to hit save. And now I have GIMP open. I'm going to basically use GIMP to take out this background. I'm going to add an alpha layer and just remove all this white. So let me do that. So I need to go to the desktop. It should be under Ranger. Let's see. I wish this had a search function. Well, let me do it this way then. Okay. So I'm in GIMP right now. So I'm going to go to Layers, Transparency, Add Alpha Channel. And then I'm going to key off this white background. And I'm going to set the threshold to probably about 15. That's the intensity of it. This one's fairly easy to do because there's not a lot of similar colors. Alright, so I'm going to save this. You want to, basically, to make tokens, you want it to be a PNG file. But I am going to save in both formats. So I'm going to hit File, Export As. And for right now, I'm just going to save it as the same file name. And then I'm going to export it. Alright, so that's that. Now I want to make sure it's the correct format though. So that's a PNG file. I want to make darn sure it's got the right properties. Okay, then export. Okay, so I'm going to use a website. It is called Roll Advantage Token Stamp. So I'm going to go to that website first. Let's see. Not sure why there's an echo. That's weird. There, I know what it was. I had the volume from Twitch. Now that I turned it down, you won't hear the echo. Yeah, it was feeding back into itself. What a dummy. Alright. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to use the Roll Advantage Token Stamp. And by the way, I got this image off Pinterest. So Roll Advantage Token Stamp is just a quick and easy, dirty way to acquire tokens and to make your own tokens. So I'm just going to drop the image in here, and then once I do that, I'll be able to turn those two images into a couple different tokens. So I'm going to take this photo, drag it in here, and as you can see, it kind of makes a portrait here, but I only want to get her at first. So I'm going to expand this because this is the preview window. And this is another why I made it a PNG file, because when you expand it, it doesn't lose its quality and it doesn't get as distorted. You leave it as a JPEG, you're likely to get that distortion. So this is going to be your token, kind of an ugly token, but it'll do. I'm going to take and I guess I'm going to make this round. So I might have to adjust the size. So there's the roundness of it. And the reason I'm going to go with round instead of square is because it'll show up better on the maps in Fantasy Grounds. I do prefer them to be square, but the circular ones tend to stand out more. So I like the background tint. It's kind of a beige color. I want to lighten it up though because that will also show some contrast in the game. I don't want it white, but I definitely want it a little bit lighter. Okay, so that's that. And now the background color, maybe green. That kind of makes sense. She's a ranger. I don't want it to be darker. No, lighter. There we go. So that way we can see the details here. And then I'm going to play around with the location because I kind of want her face more than the bow. And there we go. So that was a horrible picture to choose for a token, but nonetheless, so I'm going to hit download. And it's going to give me a preview of what it looks like. And I am going to right click on it and I'm going to, let's see, resize. Now when you have tokens, you don't want a huge photo. So I'm going to click this custom dimension. Right now it's 256 by 256. That's a little big for Fantasy Grounds. I mean, it's not too bad. But the little space that you get is really small. So I'm going to go 128 by 128. And then I'm going to save it. And I'm going to rename it so I know what the heck it is. So, female ranger token 1. Just so I have some sort of title. And I'll save that to my desktop for now. Alright. And now for the bobcat. I kind of like the bobcat better than the freaking character itself. Alright, so here's the bobcat. I'm definitely going to change the ring color to like a green. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Now I'm going to shrink the photo a little bit. Let's see. That out of the way. What do you guys think? Is it a lynx or a bobcat? Whatever it is, I want to get it right. Yeah, shrink it a little more. Kind of like that, but it's got to be a little bigger. That's not too bad. So, lynx or bobcat? Well, we're about to find out. Lynx or bobcat? That's what I need to know. Lynx or bobcat? What do you guys think? And give you this say, do you think that was a lynx or a bobcat? I don't know. So I'm going to get out of that. I'll find out later, I guess. Okay, so I am going to continue with the website. Alright, so I'm going to export this, but I'm going to change the background color. Probably something brownish, kind of. There we go. Kind of an olive. Yeah, not quite so dark. And about there. There we go. It looks pretty decent. So I'm going to download this. And I'm going to edit this a little bit more. So I'm going to adjust the color. Oh yeah, give it a nice color shade. Make it just a tad bit lighter. And then some filters. I'm going to enhance the photo a little bit more. Yeah, it looks really good now. So I just saved it. Now I'm going to right click on it and resize. So 128 by 128. Save, resize, copy. And I'm going to call this Animal Companion Token 1. Okay. So I think I'm done screwing around with images, but I kind of wanted to have some cool tokens for these guys, so You know, I'm also wanting the inspiration because this class actually gets... They're so closely related that it doesn't really matter. Lynx, Rufus, and Lynx. Huh. Okay. Well, maybe they live in different climates. Maybe one's more attuned to warmer climates and the other one's more mountainous, or we'll find out. So anyways, this class doesn't get its due because most people think that it's a very underpowered. And I kind of agree with that a little bit, but I think the key is the relationship between the animal companion and the ranger. If you put a lot of detail and work into that, I think it makes this class shine. If you just make a ranger and stick an animal with it, it's really not gonna have that bond that you're looking for. And I think it's partly roleplay and story. So bobcats are more southern. So probably a bobcat then. Okay. So we'll see. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily minimize Fantasy Grounds. Yeah, I know. I was going to use UA, but I don't want to if I can help it. Because then if I go to level up and that feature or that class is gone, I can't level up anymore. That's my only fear about using UA stuff. So what I'm going to do is go to tokens. And I have this folder called PC tokens. So these aren't really PCs, but I can use them in the stead of. So they will be PCs. I don't know the new version. Yeah, I don't either. I don't usually mess with UA just because of the balance issues and stuff. So here's the Forgotten Realms, or the Female Ranger. I just put that in the folder. And the Bobcat, or Lynx. I'm going to keep arguing that all night. Okay, so I re-maximized Fantasy Grounds. And now I'm going to get rid of the secondary screen for a bit. Okay, so now we're back in business. So right now I have a token here that I'm going to use for the female ranger. And when I pick her bobcat or lynx, I will have a token for that. So all that work just for a little itty bitty token. But it is definitely worth it in the long run. I mean, it's nice to have a nice piece of art that you can identify with. If I wanted to do a portrait photo, I could, but I think I'm just going to use a generic. The token you can actually export and save with the character somewhat. The portrait, not so much. I'm not going to go through as much trouble. So for right now, I'm just going to give her this thing here. Let's see. There we go. So I'll just say that's her photo when she doesn't have all her makeup on. That's her morning face. Ugh! Don't look at me! Alright, so that's her. Let's see, what else do we got? Alright, so we're going to start building. So I always start with the stats first. And that is something you should know about Fantasy Grounds, is you always start with the statistics. Don't start with the artwork like I did. So 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. So what do you think I should make her dump stat? She's definitely going to be dexterous. She's going to be wise. She's going to be kind of pretty. Maybe healthy. So maybe strength. But I don't want her to be too weak in strength. Maybe she's dumb as a bag of rocks. I don't know. There is no good dump stat for her. So I'm just going to plug in where I think. I know half-elves get a few things that will help. So I'm definitely going to put 15 in dex. I'm going to put a 12 in wisdom. I'm going to put a 13 in con. And let's see, 13, 14, 14 in strength. Alright, so she's not super pretty, but she's definitely an average. And her leadership skills are not as much as I'd hoped, but I think I can smooth that out later. So I got strength, 15, yep. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and pick her background. So if I open up the backgrounds tab, I'm gonna change this to create PC so I don't get too confused here. So I'm gonna get backgrounds going. I was gonna make her an Emerald Enclave agent. And what they are people who work in a group, and they're more, in tune with nature. Yeah, so there's those who serve the faction are masters of survival and living off the land. They are proficient in nature and can seek assistance from woodsmen, hunters, rangers, barbarian tribes, druid circles, things like that. Skill is insight and 1 intelligence. And then you get to pick wisdom or charisma skill of your choice as appropriate to your faction. So I might give her the charisma or wisdom. We'll find out. So I'm going to drag this over. So I get 1 skill that I get to pick from. And I'm going to look at her skills tab. So right off the bat, she has insight. So definitely probably want animal handling. That makes the most sense. But this is coming from her background, so maybe survival. Actually, I'm going to take survival. Pretty sure. Yeah, survival. I always have problems picking these things. So I'll go ahead and do that. So now she has survival and insight. So when I pick half elf, she's going to get a couple more skills. And that's why we do race second or third, is because if I chose half elf, I would choose 2 skills, and then I wouldn't necessarily have a choice for the background skills. So this way, at least I have a choice. So I know not to pick insight and survival. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my race, which is going to be a half elf. Half elf. Yeah, I get 2 more skills. So this would be where I would get probably my nature thing and maybe perception. So there's the nature, stealth. There we go. Yeah, stealth and nature. And now I get to pick 2 ability scores to increase. So definitely want wisdom for 1. Maybe dex for sure. There we go. So wisdom and dex, those are the ones I chose to increase, because they're probably the most important ones right now. And then I'm going to go to... Okay, so there's inventory, notes. Okay. So right now I have insight, nature, stealth, and survival. So now I'm going to pick my class. So I'm going to open up class and level, and open up my classes over here. I'm definitely going to pick the ranger. I'm just going to pick the one from the player's handbook. And here's where I get my last 3 skills. So this is where I need to really pay attention. So I definitely want the animal handling now. I already have survival and stealth and nature. I think perception and one other that would help me is, I think, athletics. Yeah. Since I don't have a really, a very strong strength, having the athletics ability will let me do some extra things without having to be a big buff person. So that's what I'm going to pick. I can't see investigation or insight. That doesn't make sense. So there we go. So those are the skills. So she's got quite a few skills for being a half-elf. She gets stealth, survival, perception, nature, insight, athletics, and animal handling. It's pretty darn good. Now, that is only first level. So I'm going to get her all the way up to 5th. So now I'm going to go ahead and drag this little shield over here. I'll drag it out and then back in. And that takes her up to 2nd level. And at that point, she's gained a favorite enemy, a fighting style, natural explorer, safe haven, and spellcasting. So now I need to level her up again. Now this is where you pick your actual archetype at level 3. So I'm picking the Beastmaster. And then it gives you, your Ranger's Companion and those sort of things. And then I'm going to also drag it one more time. Now this time you get an ability score improvement. So at 4th level, you get 2 more points to choose to put on your stats. So definitely want to put one in con. So there's 14. And then maybe I will add that 13. Well, I should probably do it for the wisdom base. There we go. So she's got a 14, 16, 14, 8, 14, 12. So that's not too bad. So I'm going to put a notation on the character sheet what I chose. So con and wisdom. That way I remember where I picked those up. And now I'm going to drag it one last time. And you get an extra attack, some more hit points, so that's pretty cool. So that's done with the Ranger. Now this is the shortcut over here to the Ranger class. So I'm going to drag that to the hotkeys. That way I don't have to come back here if I need to look something up. And now I'm going to start going down here and figuring out what exactly this stuff is. So Beastmaster, just as an overview, it tells you that you have a friendship between civilized races and beasts of the world. It's like a united focus between you and the monstrous creatures. You can emulate Beastmaster Archetype, committing yourself to this ideal, working in partnership with an animal as its companion and friend. So I really like that. I think that this archetype, very shy and low charisma. Yeah. I think this archetype doesn't get enough play. I think people think it's too weak, but it really depends on how you play your character and the type of animal and your dungeon master. So a lot of people are looking for a lot of bang for their buck. This is more of a role play slash. I think it's more of a mature role for people to play. If you're going to start off with a ranger and you're going to use the Beastmaster, I hope you've at least played rangers before, and you certainly should have a natural affinity for animals, because you can kind of sense more how this player should be played as opposed to just someone who wants to hack and slash and send their animal into danger every time. So that's that. So now you get an extra attack. So instead of just one attack, you get 2. So I'm putting a notation there of ×2. Favored enemy. Well, that is going to be a tough one. So I might have to come back to this, but you can pick a couple humanoids, or you can pick giants, monstrosities, oozes, plants, undead, constructs, aberrations. If you pick a humanoid, you can pick gnolls and orcs, for example. You know, that's not such a bad idea. I'm just going to go with goblins and orcs. Those are probably the 2 most hated enemies. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And whenever I come across those, I get advantage on survival checks to track those enemies. And any information to recall about them, you get advantage on intelligence checks. So that is really cool. When you gain this feature, you also learn one language of your choice that is spoken by your favorite enemies, if they speak at all. So I get an additional language out of this. So I'm going to definitely pick Goblin. I get a language of my choice. So I can speak the language of nature. I have Sylvan. And I get 2 more. So definitely going to choose Orc. And I'm going to pick 1 more. Probably, you know, one of the Fey races, or maybe even Draconic. Let me take a look at the languages. So to do that, you can just click Options and go to Languages, and you have a list here. So I already have that. I might speak Terran, which is the language of the Earth. And then you have Primordial, which is kind of a really strange language that you would speak with like elementals. And then you have all your other stuff like Draconic. And you know, I'm really thinking I'm going to go with the Terran. So she's very utility. She has a lot of languages that she can speak, which is really cool. She probably doesn't speak a lot herself, but she probably listens to other creatures and animals, and she takes the time to learn what they're saying as opposed to talking all the time. And fighting style, no brainer. She's going to have the archery style. Although if I pick defense, if she wears armor, she would get a +1 to her armor class. Dueling is with, yeah, I don't want that. 2-weapon fighting, that's if I wanted her to have like 2 blades. I don't see her doing that as much as the movies would like. So archery it is. Actually, defense. So defense, that's going to give her a permanent, well, almost permanent 1 to armor class. So we'll take that because she can't wear that much armor. So if she gets like leather, her armor class would be like 14 or 15. So with that extra boost in there, that'll help protect her from harm. So I think that's a wiser choice. Because with archery, she's already going to get a lot of bonuses and stuff with her dex. She already gets a +3 plus her proficiency bonus. So that's like a +5 to hit or something like that. So I think she'll be good to go. I think that was a better choice. Let's see. Alright, so that's the defense part. So Natural Explorer, it gives her a chance to pick one of the terrains that she benefits from. So it can be forest or, you know, something like that. So definitely going to pick forest. Her primeval awareness, we'll get to that later. Her archetype is, we already picked one. Safe haven. So if she you know, as an agent, she can have access to a secret network of supporters and operatives, and they can provide assistance on adventures. So she can hide out in little places and stuff when she's wandering around in the forest or near the forest. And then she has her ranger spell casting. So that's pretty cool. She has Fey ancestry, which comes from her elven heritage. And skill versatility gives her the 2 skills that she already chose. So we're good to go. She has light armor, medium armor, shields. She can use a shield if she wants. Simple weapons and martial weapons. So I think she's pretty much good to go there. Now I'm going to grab her inventory. So Rob and I come up with this idea to make a module for the equipment. I had the idea because of all the classes I taught. I didn't want to spend all day with equipment and gear. So he made a parcel module. Made it, you know, so he could sell it on the store, but he also did it with what I told him in mind. So, faction agent, you get a badge, some clothing, a pouch, and a seminal faction book, which I'll get into later. Let's see, that's more for your backstory. And then I'm going to drag over the ranger starting gear. So you get a pretty good selection here. You get scale mail here. I don't know if she would wear scale. I think that's a little heavy. So I'm going to take the scale away. Even though it's very protective, it's too hampering, especially in the forest. So what I'm going to do is find leather. And I might even give her studded leather, because that would make more sense. So she's got some really nice studded leather armor. And then she has a bow and arrows. She has a long bow and arrows and a quiver, which is good. Now, I'm going to give her a couple healing potions. Potion of healing. And I'm going to change it to 2. And I think what I'm going to do is she has 2 short blades. So what I might do is just give her a +1 longbow. So I'll have to check it out. Nah, I don't think she needs that. Maybe a ring. Nah, I think that might be a little much too. Yeah, I don't like giving characters too many magic items, because then they become very unspecial. So I would rather this character earn it or make it up themselves. So I'll just leave the magic items off. I was going to give her like a +1 weapon or armor, but yeah. It's cheating, but it kind of takes away from the process. As opposed to starting with one. So anyhow, she has all her starting gear. And she has this backpack. And then she has her quiver. So what I'm going to do is type quiver on the location line. And that will put the arrows in the quiver. Her little code book, I'm going to put in the backpack. Her torches, backpack. Believe it or not, you still need a light source even if you have dark vision. A lot of people think, well, I have dark vision, I can see at night. Well, yes, you can see shapes and 3-dimensional objects, but you cannot see writing unless it's carved or etched into stone. So unless it's like relief or something like that, you cannot read text very easily in the dark. It has to have a light source to reflect off of it. So without torches or candles or something, you cannot read anything. Unless it is, of course, carved into something. So a lot of people get that wrong. It doesn't make any sense It pretty much would make torches useless if you were able to see in the dark and see text and everything. So anything printed that's not magical or relief of some sort, you have to have a light source, whether it be the sun, the stars, a candle, whatever it is. You have to have reflective light. It's just the laws of physics. Let's see. So common clothes. So also by getting rid of that scale, it brought down her weight. So that's kind of another good thing about it. Although I'm going to give her 2 water skins. So that's 2 days worth of water. And as you can see, it's starting to stack up and organize. So her little badge or emblem is going to be in the pouch. She probably wouldn't have that openly out. So she's going to put her potions in the pouch as well. And then she's got some rations, some food. I'm going to reduce it to to 5 days because she can hunt for her own food, so I don't think she needs to carry that much stuff. So she has a pouch, quiver, some rope. Okay. And let's see what else. So she has 2 short blades, and yeah, maybe. One studded leather. She has a long bow and her arrows. Gonna give her a dagger. I don't know why she doesn't have a dagger. So she's not a 2-weapon fighter. So I'm just gonna give her a short blade and a dagger. That should do it. Everybody should have a knife. You know, at least if you're in the wilderness. So here's the dagger. And then I want to get her a cloak. Nope, not those. I'm not going to worry about it right now. So that's basically it. She has enough stuff here to keep her going. Yeah, there we go. So she has, you know, basic starting equipment. Her text, or faction text, I need to look up her faction, and then I will put the notes in here. So she's from the Emerald Enclave. So I will find out what their motto is. So the Emerald Enclave is a faction in the Forgotten Realms, and that's where I imagine that she's from. And there is an appendix that talks about each faction in some of the rule books that you have. Alright, so the Emerald Enclave So this talks about the rules and what they stand for. So this is a quote. I'm going to italicize it. So it's probably written in Elvish or Sylvan. But nonetheless, this has the notes from her faction. So that way she has those handy, whoever plays the character. It's part of their backstory too, so. Alright, so that should be enough customization for that. Now for the notes. She's going to look like she's about 27, female. Height is only going to be like 5'6". And probably like 125 pounds soaking wet. She's going to be either chaotic good or neutral good. I'm thinking neutral good. I haven't picked her deity yet. I imagine it'll be like Myliki or one of those common gods or goddesses of the forest. Maybe Sylvanas. Yeah, I can see her liking Sylvanas. And then she will have her traits, bonds, and flaws. So if I open up her background, and I scroll down to the bottom, there's the tables there. I'll go back to notes, and open this up. And you can roll randomly, or you can pick which ones you want. So I idolize a faith from her. Yeah, I don't want that. I'm quite, I quote things the wrong way. I'm tolerant or intolerant of other faiths. I've enjoyed fine wine and drink. Yeah. I've spent so long in the temple. Nah. I can find common ground between the fiercest enemies, empathizing with them, and always working towards peace. I can see her doing that. That makes more sense. Or she can be superstitious, where she sees omens in every event and action. The gods try to speak to us, we just need to listen. I kind of like that. So I'm going to put that on there, and the other one about finding the common ground. Kind of like that. That sounds like a very neutral thing. Tradition, charity, change, power, faith, and aspiration. So I think aspiration would be more her tastes. I seek to prove myself worthy of my God's favor by matching my actions against his or her teachings. That sounds good. Or tradition would be the ancient traditions of worship and sacrifice must be preserved and upheld. And I don't see her doing that. And okay. So aspirations. I would die to recover an ancient relic. I'll someday get revenge on the corrupt temple. I owe my life to a priest who took me in when my parents died. I might pick that. Everything I do is for the common people, or I'll do anything to protect the temple I serve. I seek to preserve a sacred text. I think I'm going to do the I owe my life to a priest who took me in when my parents died. I like it. And for flaws, this is something that's not so nice about her. I judge others harshly and myself even more severely. That I could see. I put too much trust in those who wield power. No. Piety? No. Inflexible in thinking? Maybe. I'm suspicious of strangers and expect the worst of them? Not so much. Once I pick a goal, I become obsessed. Now I'm going to put judgment part. She's kind of judgy. That makes sense. Alright. So that is that. So now, the actions tab. This is the fun part. So here's the longbow. So there's 20. And here's one dagger, in case you want to throw it. And the short blade. She's got a nice array of different weapons to pick from. She's by no means handicapped. Let's see. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and keep building the actions. This is where a lot of people, they notice that when they first get Fantasy Grounds, They're like, hey, how come that guy has more stuff on his? Well, that's because we add a lot of customization. So the first thing I'm going to add on here is her supplies or consumables. So I'm going to call them consumables. So I click the edit button and I'm going to click add power, which just adds a new group called powers. I'm going to change the group name now, or the category. And then I'm going to click over here and that changes the category name. So there's my consumables. And I went ahead and made more lines because I'm going to put 4 different things in here. So I'm going to copy and paste consumables. First up is the healing potions. Or water. Or food. And her light source. So what that does is it gives me an easier, convenient way to keep track of this stuff. It doesn't deduct it from the inventory, but it does, you can run a tally on it. So I'm going to get out of the edit mode, and I'm going to change this to preparation. And this will let me set how many I have. So I'm going to change all these to once, because it's one-time use. They don't recharge. So 10 torches. 5 days worth of food, 2 healing potions, and 2 water skins. Now I'm going to click on the healing potions. I'm going to right click on it, click add action, click add heal, which is a healing function to the potions. And then I'm going to open up the properties of the potion with this little magnifying glass. And I'm going to right click on the desktop where the 4-sided dice is and select 2, because I want 2 dice, not just 1. Drop it here. Add 2 to the bonus, and that's what the spell does, is 2d4 plus 2. And what I'm going to do to take this further is I'm going to open this up. Since I made this on the fly, this doesn't really have a description. So I'm going to go to the Abilities tab, and you can go to the Inventory tab, and you can go to the potions here and look to see what it's supposed to do. So let's see, healing potion. Yeah, it says a character who has this gains 2d4 plus 2. So let's copy that. There we go. That way I don't have to keep, looking this stuff up. And then you have a description right there. So that way the potion has functionality and a description. And now when I change this to combat and actions, you have these little tick marks that you can tick off when you use them. And you have the function. So for instance, if she was wounded, actually I gotta give her a name. She kind of looks like a Wanda. Wanda the Wandering. Wanda the Wanderer. I love it. So good old Wanda is going to be on the combat tracker. And let's say she fell down and she got like 4 wounds. So she got 4 points of damage. So with that healing potion, if she decides to drink one, I would, drag the plus button over to her. And it healed her. She's completely healed. And I would check off one of them as used. So that's how you handle potions and such. So that's kind of cool. Oh man, what a Alright, so Wanda is basically got her weapons and her consumables done. Now I'm going to create another section, and this is going to be for her standard actions. So the standard actions are actions that you can take if you're not going to do a combat action or like dash or something like that. These are, or casting spells. These are what you can do alternatively. So if you're in a situation, don't forget you have these options. Like dodge, help, hide, ready. Those things are kind of important sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and I have Rob 2e's coding effects loaded. And I'm going to load the 5e effects coding class features. And I'm going to drag these down to the character sheet where the standard actions is. And notice I dropped them right where it says new spell or ability. If you don't, they'll end up going into spell categories. It's not that big of a deal, but it kind of makes a mess. And it's kind of a waste of time. And I'm going to delete this header or this placeholder. Now I have all the standard actions here. And they all have buttons, and some of them are notes, some of them actually give you advantage and those sort of things. So that's the standard actions. So now when I'm in combat and actions mode, there they are. There's the buttons that I can use. So let's say that she wants to ready her weapon. I would just take this, click on it, and it puts this on her character, and it lets the DM know that I have a weapon ready. Doesn't really do anything mechanically, but when your turn comes around, it'll expire. So that means you just sat around for a whole round and didn't do anything. Like you said, if somebody comes across the trail, I'm going to shoot them with my bow. Well, if no one meets that condition, you just basically wasted your whole turn concentrating on shooting someone with your bow. So that's what the ready action's for. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove it, but it's set to remove after the basically your turn comes back. So it's set to expire after one round. So that's the same with all of these. So it's pretty cool to have those. Like dodge, it actually puts that condition on you. Help is what you would drag to one of your allies if you were actually helping them. And hide is more of a condition that you can, if you're truly hidden, you can use it as it'll grant you advantage and disadvantage on your assailants. That's pretty cool. All right, so that's the actions. Now I'm going to pick and make another section, and this is going to be for the class features. Class features Ranger. All right, so I need to find Ranger on this. I'm in the class features still, and I'm going to go and look for Ranger. And you have all these Ranger things here. There's a ton of them. Now, you don't get all these. These are for different builds. So, first thing I'm going to do is go to my Abilities tab. So the Beastmaster, I don't need that. Extra attacks, I already know what that is. Favorite enemy. So that's something I need to look for. Fighting style. That is something I need to look for. Natural Explorer. There's that. Primeval Awareness. And I'm going to take a look at the companion thing. And then the Safe Haven spellcasting are just notes pretty much. Favorite enemy, already have that. So those are the things I need to look for in this list. So that way I don't have to keep going back and forth. So now I'm going to look for these over here. So I have Ranger, let's see, favorite enemy, right here. And notice I dropped it right in this empty box. So there's a favorite enemy, so I can close that. Fighting style. Archery, no, I didn't pick that. I got defense. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to set that up later as a fighting style. Ranger's Companion. I don't think that would actually do anything, but it says that you gain a beast, so I'm going to have to look at this later so I can work in the Bobcat or the Lynx. Primeval Awareness, that is another one I'm pretty sure of. Yep. So you have that. Natural Explorer, I know that's on here. The Rangers are pretty powerful if they're in the forest. But once you get them away from their home, they kind of, they lose some of their oomph. And that might be why people don't like them. That's the fighting style. So we have that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. That's that section now. The fighting style, defense, is basically, I'm going to search for it here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this gives you an armor class of +1. I mean, that's what it does. You could go in here and change it. So I'm going to the front page. I'm clicking on the magnifying glass. And you can put 1 in miscellaneous. And that will permanently add your armor class bonus. I don't want to do that. And the reason for it is in case you're not wearing armor for some god-awful reason, then you won't have the ability to easily remove the bonus. So what I'm going to do is create an effect that's just going to add +1 to your AC. And it's not a very difficult bonus to add in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another line, and I'm going to copy and paste the category. And I'm just going to name it defense. And now I'm going to right click on it and add action. And this is going to be an effect. It's not a heal or damage or a cast. It is an effect. So what that's going to do is place an effect on me once I activate it. So I'm going to open it up, which is this lighter or harder to see magnifying glass. And you're going to put the description in here. There, defense. And then I'm going to put a semicolon. All I have to do is put AC 1. So all that does is it adds 1 to my armor class. I'm going to put targeting as self, because this doesn't affect anybody else. And the rounds, I'll just leave that the way it is, because there's no duration on it. It's continuous, unless I take off my armor. Because this says, while wearing armor, you gain +1 bonus to AC. So now, if I get out of the edit mode, and I change this, now this is something I would put on automatically. Unless for some reason I wasn't wearing armor. This doesn't have a description either. So it would be wise if I just copied this text here. That way I kind of know what's going on. And that way if the DM argues with me, that's what it is. So that is that. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. That adds +1 to my armor class. Also, I would probably put on Natural Explorer if I was in the forest. You know, there's certain things that are active all the time, and that's certainly going to be one of them for the most part. So that is that. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make, let's see, do I need another section? Yes. So I'm going to add one more section for the half-elf portion. So I'm going to change the spell effects to 5e effects coding race traits. And I'm going to make a new section. So I'm just going to drag over elf, or is it elf or half-elf? Half-elf. Half-elf Fey ancestry. So if I drag that over here, and I don't put a category, it puts it in cantrips. So I'm actually going to change this category to racial traits. Okay, so that is basically, now it will be in a new section. So wait, how did I screw that up? Maybe not. So I guess I'm going to have to make a new section anyways. There we go. So here's the racial traits for the half-elf is Fey ancestry. Now, when I have this in combat and actions, I can allow to this to go on. So it gives you advantage on saving throws versus charmed, and you cannot be put to sleep by magical means. So this is kind of a note, and it stays on you the whole time. So that's that. Almost done. Now I just got to pick some spells. So I need to kind of work out what's going on with the animal companion before I pick a bunch of spells. So I'm going to bring that up. And it says at 3rd level, I gain a beast that accompanies you on adventures. You can choose a beast that is no larger than medium and has a challenge rating of 1/4 or lower. You can add your proficiency bonus to the beast armor class, attack rolls, and damage, as well as to any saving throws or skills it's proficient with. So I need to find a stat block that will be similar to a lynx or a bobcat. So no lynx. What the heck? So I think I'm going to load some more. I don't have my monster manual, I don't think. So you need to have some kind of supplements that have, you know, creatures in it. So monster manual. Now let me try it. Nope. Okay. So now I'm going to have to find something kind of like a lynx or a tiger. So let me think about that. Maybe a lion? No, that's too big. Maybe a puma? Alright, so here's a tiger. Close enough. Although this thing isn't going to be as badass as a tiger. So I need to make some changes. Yeah, so yeah, this is... Yeah, that's not going to happen. So for a bobcat, or a lynx, I'm going to open this up. And it's read-only, so it's not going to let me alter it. So what I'm going to do is make a copy. And with this copy now, I can edit it. That way it's no longer a part of the module. And I'm also going to put it in my own group. So there's something called My NPCs, in which I am going to drag that in there. So here's the copy. There's My NPC. So I'm going to copy that in there. I don't want it part of the monster manual. And now I have this tiger copy. So now I'm going to do is unlock it. I can use my fancy token that I made earlier. So instead of the letter token, I can do that. Now, this armor class for this creature was +2 because of its dexterity. But this thing right here says that I can add another +2 for this, for my, or whatever my, my proficiency bonus is +3. So to the AC, I can add 3. So right off the bat, this cat gets 15. For size, it's probably going to end up being small or medium. Strength of 17, I don't think so. I think I'm going to reduce the strength to like 13. Yeah, that makes more sense. Constitution of 14, probably a 13. Intelligence, leave that. Wisdom, leave that. Charisma, probably make it a 9. And that would probably be good for that. So there's some natural stealth. And hit point. So 48. +8. So that would be the max. So I'm only going to give the cat probably about 22 at the most. So it has 21 hit points. For speed, I don't think it can get up to 40. But I think 35 sounds reasonable. It has a perception of 3. So, not knowing what it should start with, I'm going to give it a 4. And the stealth, I'm going to leave that because with that +2 modifier, I think that that'll do it. Now, for the bite attack, it gets 1d10. I think that's too much. (1d6). That had its strength bonus. So I'm going to leave the +3. Let me look at that. Yeah, it has a +1 strength. It's going to get a +4 on its bite. 1d6 +4. And these little stat block things are hard to change because they are trying to parse. So that's why you have to watch it. Now the melee attack of +5 is going to stay the same. Actually, it probably should be +3. Well, it has a, let's see, it's going to go more with stealth. So it has a +2, yeah, it's going to be a +4. So there's 4. If anyone could come up a name for the lynx or the bobcat. Alright, so +4 to hit, and these are the claws. So they're not going to do as much damage. So they're going to do 1d4 +4. With an average of 6. Alright, that's pretty fair and decent. Challenge rating is only supposed to be a maximum of 1/4 or lower. So make it 125 XP and 1/4. Then if I have any lore, I can put it back here. As a matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to take this information and put it back here in case. That way I have the data right there. And then I'm going to link, but nah, I don't want to link that. I already have the information I need. So that's good. Now I'm going to change this. Bobcat. Bobby. Let's just call him Bobby. Razor as the kitty's name. Yeah, I like that. So we'll call it Razor. Should we call it Razor as in R-A-I-S-E-R? Or kind of like a take on the name, or just like a razor blade with its claws? Yeah, I'll just call it that for now. So there's Razor. So what has to happen with this creature or animal is that you basically, it has to kind of obey you, and you guys have a friendship, and then it can spend hit dice during a short rest. It gets bonuses, which we've already dealt with. It obeys your commands. It takes its turn on your initiative, though it doesn't attack unless you say so. On your turn, you can verbally command it what to do. Like, you don't have to take an action. You can use your action to verbally command it to attack, dash, disengage, or help. Once you have the extra attack feature, you can make one attack yourself when you command the beast to take the attack action. If you don't issue a command, the beast takes the dodge action. So when traveling in your favorite terrain with only the beast, you can move at a stealthy pace, normal, so you don't have to go half speed. If the beast dies, you can obtain another one, but you have to spend 8 hours magically bonding with another beast that isn't hostile. So that would be a pain in the ass. If you're hurt or absent, your beast can act on its own. It's focusing on protecting you and itself. It never requires your command to use its reactions, such as making an opportunity attack, those sort of things. That's pretty cool. If I had a way to link this to the character sheet, I would. But if this was my character, and I was going to control Razor, I would drag this to the hotkeys as the DM and as the player. And then what I'd have to do as the DM is I'd have to drag this over and share the stat block with the player so they had control over it. And then I have to first add it to the combat tracker and then change it to a friendly. That way when the character uses it, he can basically he can use this as his animal companion. So that's kind of how you handle those. So instead of just having your character, you'll have access to the stat block as well. And when it comes time to making attacks, you have control over these. And it has a pounce thing here. And then it has advantage on perception checks that rely on smell. So there you go. That is Razor in a nutshell. So, I'm going to go ahead and do a right/save. So I want to save my work. And now I need to pick the spells for this character. So I have the animal companion kind of dealt with. Now the last thing I'm going to do is spell. So I'm going to go to the spells area, and I'm going to drop down to the 5e effects coding spells. And then I'm going to go ahead with level 0, or actually level 1. Because normally rangers don't get those type of spells. They don't get cantrips unless it's granted to them another way. And then I'm going to go ahead and select down at the bottom Ranger. Okay, so I get first level spells. I get 4 of them. So when I drag these over, I'm going to drop them where it says spell slot, and they'll automatically go where they need to go. So I'm going to go ahead and do Animal Friendship, just in case. Cure Wounds. What's Beast Bond do? You can establish a telepathic link. It can telepathically communicate simple emotions and concepts back to you. Yeah, it's kind of cool, but I don't think I need that with the cat. Animal Friendship is just so if I come across any animals, period, that I can bond with them somewhat. Speak with animals, definitely want that. And then I'm going to take Hunter's Mark, which will give me a better attack with my bow. So that's pretty fair. I got some utility, I got Cure Wounds, and then an offensive one. So that's pretty decent for first level spells. Now I'm going to go to second level, and I only get a couple. So really have to make this matter. Locate plants or animals. So if I can't find my animal, I can locate it. And then also it works with plants. So that's very utility. And then Animal Messenger. By means of the spell, use an animal to deliver a message. That is super cool. So I know there's a lot of other cool spells in here, but I think that would be very useful. So now I have a bunch of animal nature-like spells and a couple other ones. So that's why I wanted to see what was going on with the animal first. Okay, so now I'm going to save it again. And that is Wanda the Wanderer, and she has her cat Razor. So now what I'm going to do is go back to that artwork that I found. So basically the character build is done. I have both of these on here. If I brought up a map, I'm going to load a map pack. And bring up the old Venmire Woods. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is one of my favorite maps, is this lake map. And then there's this flooded village. Ooh, let's use that. Okay, so there's trauma going on here, and this roadway is washed out. Nearby is a flooded village. So first of all, as the DM, I need to put a grid on it. So roughly 48. There we go. And now I'm going to put these two on the map. And that is why I made the circles, because they show up more against the background. Otherwise, if I just had those really cool 3D top-downs, they'd be very hard to see. Plus, with all this green, they kind of camouflage in. So now what I'm going to do is find a creature that they either have to avoid or... Man, these are just obstacles. So she is going to move out to this log and float down the river and try to hop on this log like Frogger. So I'm bringing up her sheet. Here's her abilities and her skills. So she's going to use her athletics. So the log is moving, but not that fast. So she is going to jump on these logs. And they do intersect at one point. So I'll give her a chance to do that. So she can move 30 feet. But doing the log thing, I honestly think that she'd have to take like maybe half of her time to do it. It'd be a little bit slower going. So what I'm going to do is move her. And I'm going to lock the tokens first. So I'm going to move her over here. And then she's going to make the jump to the log. And that's quite a jump. So, you know, we're looking at X amount of feet here. So that's going to be a difficult jump. Kind of difficult. She has to roll a 12 or higher. And her athletics is right here. It's +5 total. Oh yeah, she made it no problem. So now Razor is going to make a dexterity check. Oh yeah, Razor rolled a 20. So Razor just sprints over here, 35 feet, and it doesn't even bother her that Wanda was in the way. So that's why she rolled a 20, so she aced it. So they both got on the log fairly simple. So anyways, as you can see, the tokens are sometimes hard to see depending on the background. So, and you always want them in a square. You don't want them halfway in and out. So they're basically on that log waiting to go across. So that is that. So now I'm going to go back to the artwork. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to bring up, what do you call it? Microsoft Publisher. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and launch that. And then I'll go ahead and switch the screen so you guys can see what I'm doing, kind of. Let's see. So there's the display capture. Now I'm going to open up Publisher. And what I'm going to do is make a poster for her and her cat. So first of all, on this page design, I'm just going to put a narrow margin around the edge. I'm going to find a forest-looking background. So I hit background, more backgrounds, pictures, and texture fill. And insert from online photos. Again, I'm going to be kind of borrowing a photo. And I'm just going to look for a fantasy forest. So these are all pretty much commons, so Creative Commons. So, you know, if I wanted to use these, I just have to write to the author. I'm going to go ahead and pick probably this one here on the left. Looks pretty cool. We'll see how it looks. Yeah, it's a swamp with somebody standing there, so no. I didn't see that. So I don't want the swamp. Let's see. Here's one with the road. Kind of want one that's a little bit more on the nature side. And I don't want it photographic perfect. I want more of a fantasy, like, painting. Ooh, that's kind of cool. So anyways, there's the background. I'll just use that. We'll say they're stalking around in some creepy woods. And I'm going to insert the PNG file that I made earlier. So I'm going to hit Pictures. I have to go to my desktop. Alright, so there's the photo that I had earlier. So it doesn't really look right because of the perspective. You see how it kind of looks like they're floating in the air? So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to lower this down to about there, I think. And I'm going to make this just a tad bit bigger. And then I'm going to put some shadow, so that helps it kind of blend in with the background. Then I'm going to put some, like, trees and rocks in the way, so it doesn't look like they're standing up in the air. So let's see. Alright, so I'm going to go to Insert, Online Pictures, and I'm going to look for brush or bushes. And I want them to be a PNG file so that I can manipulate them. So here's one, here's some bushes, here's some. So there's quite a variety here. Yeah, there's a lot. Cool. So I'm going to hit Insert. You can select more than one. So that one's out. So that one looks alright. So what I'm doing is blending this in with the photo. And instead of putting this in the front, I'm going to make it backwards. So it looks like that is behind them. And then I'm going to cover up the ground part. Then it looks like the cat jumping out of the bushes. And that she's kneeling and standing up. So another thing I'm going to do to kind of make this more interesting is I am going to add a little bit of shadow to the bushes so they kind of have some depth to them. Just moved her over just a hair, so that looks pretty decent. So now you get that illusion of these bushes, even though they're not really part of the photo. It kind of makes them look like they're part of the photo. Mosquitoes. There we go. Not coming up. Try it again. Okay. Here we go. So these guys, I'm going to send them backward. And they were startled from their positions. So they were scared out of their roost. And I'll put a little shadow on them. So that just kind of makes the photo a little bit more interesting and balanced. So now, once I get done with that, I can export this as a photo. So I'm going to hit save as, or export, excuse me. Change file type. I'm going to change it as a JPEG and save as. Wanda and Razor. Okay, so that's done with the Microsoft Publisher. So now what I'm going to do is open up Wanda and Razor in more of a Photoshop type thing. So I'm going to open it with one of my paint shop programs. Okay, so here's the photo. So all I'm going to do is kind of play around with the contrast. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to shrink this down, and first thing I'm going to do is trim it a little bit. Right about there. I just wanted to get rid of some of that reary edge stuff. And now I want to take this photo and adjust the light and dark, bright and contrast. Yeah, I think already it looks better, just from that little bit of contrast. Yep. Knock down the brightness a touch. It kind of helps to blend the picture in more. And then I'm going to remove the digital noise, which is all the artifacts left over from stacking the photos and such. So right here, if I change this, let's see. Like 30%. So it kind of blends it in a little bit more. See, it doesn't look as sharp. Kind of softens it. Yeah, it's starting to look more like it's one photo instead of a bunch of different stuff layered. And now I'm going to put a frame around it, or like a border. This has a little black border around there. And then I'm going to shrink it. So image, resize. So Fantasy Grounds doesn't like anything over 2000 by 2000, but the standard size for handouts is 1000 by whatever. So I'm going to change that to 1000. So that's the photo size at 100%, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to hit save, save it to the desktop. Yep, and that's that. So now in Fantasy Ground, I'm going to go to Maps and Images. I really don't have a section yet, but I'm going to drag that photo in there. So I'm going to drag the actual photo that I just made into Maps and Images. Alright, so there's Wanda and Razor. So what I would do is take Razor, stat block, unlock it, and link this photo. You can't really link photos on characters, so I'm just going to do that. There we go. So now when I want a picture of them, it's right there. And that would be something I'd show my fellow players or my DM, whatever. Or the DM would do that. And I think that's enough for today. I kind of went about beyond the scope of the class, but some of the steps that you got to go through. So if you guys have any questions in chat, feel free to ask before I leave. So you guys have a good weekend. Thanks for watching. And I will upload this to our YouTube channel. So if you came in late, or perhaps you wanted to watch the whole thing or watch it at your leisure, it'll be up on YouTube later tonight or tomorrow morning. So again, everyone, this was the 5th level Ranger. It is a female half-elf Beastmaster bond. And I think that is one of the weaker archetypes. However, if you treat it like you do with any other character with care, it's gonna look right. It's gonna turn out. So I think it would be a good idea if you did some research on your animal and make sure that you give it the love that it deserves as far as building the character. I really liked how the photo turned out. I mean, it's not the best, but for whipping it out in like 10 minutes, that's pretty cool. It gives you an idea of what they look like together. And then, you know, stat block turned out really good. And I'm really impressed with this build. And actually, one thing I forgot to tell you was preparation mode. I need to prepare her spells. And then if she had any usages, like for her abilities, I could... There we go. So now I'm going to save it. And it'll say campaign save. Now if I right click on the desktop, click the X, and return to launcher. That is the way to exit properly. So happy gaming, everyone. Have a good weekend. I'm out.